Neighborhood. All righty now, man. For those that know this story, you'll know. And for those who don't know this story, we'll call this an introduction. And then there's going to be like this instant total recall once we start talking about your story, Nicole. Now we have Nicole P. Bell in the neighborhood. And Nicole, welcome to the neighborhood, love.
Thank you.
It's wild, Nicole, because I know your story with Sean Bell. And I remember this story so well. And it's wild because we could say we remember, but this is something that you'll never forget. We could remember, but this is something that weighs with you every day. And first off, I got to say thank you for coming into the neighborhood and thank you for sharing your time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
And a backstory for those who probably don't know. You and Sean, you guys were engaged, getting married. And can you give us the story from what the public would know?
So Sean and I met in high school. We were high school sweethearts. And we had two daughters, and my beautiful daughters, Jada and Jordan. They are my everything to this day. They support me behind everything, and I'm just so blessed to be their mom. So Sean and I met in high school, and after high school, we, just like anyone else, got on to, raising a family young. He worked, and I went to school, and we both worked. We had decided to get married after having two girls, being together for 6 years, and he planned the wedding. Sean planned the wedding. We had been engaged for some time, and then we had a talk one day after going to one of his friends' weddings, and we were sitting there on the ride home in the car, and he's like, what do you think? I know we don't really have the money and the time to do it right now. We're working. We're young parents. How do you feel? Are you ready? Do you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I know, let's do it. But we're not going anywhere. There's no rush.
Right.
We're together. We love each other. We live together. There's no rush here. We're young, so we'll take our time. So somewhere in November, the beginning of November 2006, he sat me down. One day I came home and he said, hey, come, let's sit down and have a talk. I was kind of nervous. I didn't know what that talk was about because he wasn't the type. That's right, and he wasn't the type to come and say, "Hey, come sit down and talk to me." It was more of whatever he had to say. He would just say it. It wasn't a sit down, serious moment. So in that conversation, he had told me that he had been thinking about, the relationship, how far we had come. He had talked to his mom, talked to my mom. He had talked to our whole family and planned the wedding. It was 2 weeks away. Dated for November 25th.
In New York?
In New York. Yeah. We're from New York. Born and raised in Queens.
Gotcha.
Queens, New York. Both of us. So that was the happiest day of my life when he told me that. 2 weeks before what was due to be my wedding day. It was time for me to then find my dress and do the wonderful things that you do as a bride-to-be. And I did that. My mom, my sister, my family is a huge support base. He's very close with his mom and his dad and his two siblings. So everyone was involved in this. And I couldn't believe that I didn't know. I didn't find out. Everyone kept it secret from me. We, on November 25th, the night of November 24th, I went to my mom's. We did a bachelorette party at the house. It was small, intimate. It ended really quickly and quietly. I was more excited for the next day. For me, it was like the wedding day. For me, it was like, a kid on Christmas Eve getting ready for the next day. It's going to be the biggest day of my life. And that night, my mom woke me up after the bridal shower, and she said, something happened. My brother-in-law was with Sean celebrating at the bachelor party, and something happened. He didn't say what, but she could tell that from his voice he was hysterical.
There's a panic.
Something happened, and we need to get up, and we have to go. So if you're from New York and you're from Queens, I was born and raised in Queens my whole life. There's like two major hospitals in that area at that time. That was Jamaica Hospital and Mary Immaculate. My mom got on the phone, and she called the first hospital, which was Jamaica, and said, hey, do you have a Sean Bell here? And they said, we do. You guys need to come. We didn't know anything. In my mind, I'm usually calm on the surface, but at that moment, anxiety. My nervous system was bad. I couldn't get him. I tried to call him on the phone. Oh, God. It rang out, and all I could think of was maybe it's an accident, a car accident on the way home. What could have happened? He had been celebrating with a bunch of guys that night from the neighborhood. and my brother-in-law was there. His father came out. And I found out once we got to the hospital that he had been shot. He was leaving his bachelor party, and he was with all of the guys in our car. And as he was pulling off, there were undercover cops who were investigating the club that night. Nothing to do with him and his friends. Right. They were there investigating that night, that club. And I didn't find out for years later, once the trial came, all of the details of what happened that night. But pretty much he tried to pull off. He didn't know he was being stopped by a cop. And the person,
they're undercover. They were undercover. They're plain clothes.
And they were in the club, blending in with the patrons.
And you figure...
And they look like us.
And put yourself in the real place where somebody steps in front of you or steps in front of your car, or what are you doing to kind of like save your life? Yeah. You're getting out of Dodge.
That's exactly what he did. And I know him. You know, like I know him. Like and that's what he did.
Sean's a working man. He's a father.
A father. Went to school. He went to college, Nassau Community College. He played baseball. From a child, before I met him, that was his thing. When I met him in high school, he was a baseball player, a pitcher, and he was popular for that. And once he got out of school, you know, he tried to, you know, get different jobs. He worked for UPS. He worked for Newsday. He worked for different jobs just to try and find his way. And he was taken from us in a instinct. And my life was devastated.
How do you find out? Y'all get the phone call.
Yeah.
You understand that something's going on. You get to the hospital. Do they tell you there that he was shot? They tell you he was shot? Do they say
not right away. It took hours. I mean, Reverend Sharpton
was there already?
Got to the hospital. Yeah, he made it there. And we didn't know Reverend Sharpton, but a cousin of mine is married to another reverend who knew Reverend Sharpton. And my cousin was there.
When do you know the extent of he and the party being shot at 50 times excessively?
I found out that morning in the hospital. Once the community started to gather, we were at the hospital for a long time once we had got the news. And people were coming in, and they were telling us, hey, it was a club. It's not too far from here. I didn't even know where he was that night because he wanted to stay local. It wasn't a big bachelor party that was planned. It was, hey, I'm going to go out with the guys to a local place because we don't want to be too far from home.
And Nicole, time-wise, now time as far as AM, this is your wedding day now.
It's my wedding day. He was killed on my wedding day at 4 a.m. in the morning. 4 a.m. in the morning. We were due to get married at 6 p.m. on that Saturday, the 25th.
So how do you find out that he was shot and the amount of bullets?
Yeah. The news. The news. It was there was a lot of pieces that were not intact at that time. We were trying to put the pieces together. Everyone was trying to put the pieces together. What happened? You know, based on what my brother-in-law told me, being there that night at the bachelor party, what happened? He was with Sean. He walked to the car with him. So we're hearing from my brother-in-law and from the other guys who were traumatized. They're victims. They were dodging bullets, trying to get away from the scene. And none of them had committed a crime. None of them had committed a crime.
So your life pretty much, we'll say it goes from sugar to shit.
That's instantly. It. And it did. It did. But this part of it is where, you know, I push back. This part is about me. It's about me healing myself. Right after Sean was killed, I went straight into activism. I mean, the next day we were marching with Sharpton. I didn't have time to mourn. So when you do that, mourning comes later.
And then when do you mourn? Well, you say mourning comes later because you're constantly, for one, you're losing the father of your children. You're losing your mate. You're losing your husband and all the memories and the moments. And then now you have to share everything publicly. You have to share the praise and then the scrutiny. And you can't mourn alone. Everything around you brings it back up to you. And then I'm pretty sure you have to be in public defending
absolutely
your husband and his friends and family honor with people that have nothing to do with you or your life. And they're painting these pictures. And there was one thing that I saw in the trailer where it says victims turned into villains.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that you had to feel that.
It was painful. It was painful, to say the least. I didn't expect that. I was informed once I had got around, counseling with Reverend Sharpton and with attorneys, that when things like this happen, there's a smear campaign.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
That happens to the victims.
Mm-hmm.
And anything they've ever done is getting ready to come out. Anything you've ever done is going to come out. It's like, okay, well, Sean wasn't that type of guy. So, what are we talking about here? But yeah, they brought up, the guys that were with him. What have they been arrested for in the past? And, what have they done? The fact is, that night they were celebrating a bachelor party. There was not one crime that was committed. They weren't there causing any violence. The violence happened to them. Yeah. They didn't commit a crime. And that's why I fought so hard with the state trial and then the federal investigation and then the departmental hearings. There were years of legal battles.
And are you still in New York at this time?
I'm not in New York at this time.
No, I don't mean now, but during while everything is going on, because I know you could become praised and you could become public enemy number one. Yeah. What was it like for you, Nicole, just with even the threats that came towards you? Right. Those things had to happen. I'm pretty sure.
They did. But my community supported me.
Yeah.
Yeah. My community supported me. The women in my community supported me. The guys in my community supported me. Everyone supported the family. And if I were to step outside with my daughters and go to the store, right, there was someone there.
A shield of protection.
That's right. On my street, on, anywhere I went where I was recognized, the community stood up. What
is that when you become a public figure overnight? Because I don't know if growing up or even at that time, were you more closed in?
Absolutely.
More private, of course. So what is that for you, Nicole, when you become a public figure overnight and the world knows your story?
I never saw it as a public figure. It was something I had to do.
Right.
I had to do this. This was what happened to Sean, and knowing who he was, it was wrong, and who was going to stand up for him, and who had the energy, who had to do that, who could go a long way. That was me. That's my job. And I had to do that, not only for him, but for my daughters, for the guys that were involved, for his family, for myself, for my own healing. Like, how can I say I just walked away and allowed this to happen when it was dead wrong? And growing up in South Jamaica, Queens, I saw the stop and frisk all the time. Right. This was a regular thing for cops to just jump out on you, and not me, but the men in the neighborhood, black and brown men walk out and, they're getting patted down at the corner stores, standing outside there. That's just a regular thing.
Right. You see it every day.
Every day. So when this happened to Sean, it was like, oh no, this is not it for me. We're going to fight, we're going to fight it out. We're going to advocate. We're going to be vigilant. We're going to support other families. We're going to do anything that I can do to try and preserve his legacy, but also get justice in a way that our government wouldn't allow me to have justice. Talk
to us about the movie Aftershock. Why was Aftershock, why was the movie important to you?
So it's really, Aftershock, I would say at this point, is part of my therapy. It's a part of my journey. It's part of my healing. It's telling the story of what happened. It's claiming the narrative of this is what happened. But it's also giving victims a voice to say, listen, we can tell our stories. And, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't be afraid. But for me, it was therapeutic. I went back to therapy. I had to go back to therapy.
Are you reliving?
Yeah.
So you're reliving that in the movie. And when we go see a movie, we can watch the movie, and whatever the total running time is, 1.5 hours, 2 hours, we could put ourselves there. But this is, Nicole, this is your life.
Yeah.
And not only you're not going to go watch the movie, you have to make sure that you're a part of every piece of this movie, because you want to make sure that the narrative is told correctly, that it looks a certain way, that it feels a certain way. So there's real time and effort and emotion. And when you say it's therapy, sometimes therapy is like, you get these high notes of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then it can I'm pretty sure it had to bring you right back into the situation many times.
It did. Yeah. Highs and lows, highs and lows. To the point where, I would lose sleep. I can't sleep. I'm reliving, the experience. Yeah, the trauma. But my daughters are older now. They're, my daughter Jordan, she's a student at Howard University.
Come on.
And Jada, she's, an independent little woman. She's, has her own, job, and, she has a career. So right now, it's different from when I advocated in '06, right? Because my girls were babies. Now they're old enough to hear, understand, comprehend exactly what's going on. And I have to protect them. I've always protected them. That was always my goal. So there's been areas where I would, sit them down and say, hey, how do you feel about this? What do you think if this comes out? And I have to get their approval. I have to, because there's so many people affected.
When
his
you
mom,
see this,
his friends, everyone.
When you see this time and time again, because you lived it for the last, down to 20 years. You've lived it. And then when you start to look at some of the things with like George Floyd, when you start to see those things, are you in a position where you say, oh, I know what they're going to do with this? I've been here. I know the smear campaign. I know what's going to happen. I hope that there's justice. But even on your end, Nicole, you didn't get any justice. You go through the system properly, and 3 of the officers, they were on trial.
Right.
And all 3 were found not guilty.
Yes.
With a hail of 50 bullets.
That's right.
That's almost like being assassinated again.
It was. That's exactly what it was. It was an injustice all over again. And it was on every level. So we sat through the whole trial. I was there every single day. And there was no justice there. There was no justice on the federal investigation. That was for civil rights violations. And it's the system. These are the steps that all families have to go through when someone is killed, when their loved one is killed by a law enforcement, a police officer. These are the steps. So from '06, till now, I've watched countless amount of families go through exactly what we've gone through, with the hope that they're going to be the ones to get justice.
Yeah, this is the one.
And that's even more of a reason why I had to continue on this journey, because after Aftershock, there's going to be other stories told. And I'm going to be the person to say, for every person who's ever lost a loved one to any type of violence, whether it's from a police officer or street violence, this is how we get justice. We're going to get justice. And it should be in the form of the courtroom. It should be in the form of these officers going to jail, because if it were me who had shot up a neighborhood 50 times, I'd be under the jail. You guys wouldn't. 20 years later, I'd still be there. We all know that, right? But this is my way of getting justice, guys. This is it. This is it for me. And after this, there's more.
What do you want people to take away from the movie Aftershock?
I want people to know that it's okay to tell your truth. It's okay to tell your story. Never, feel afraid or, backed against the wall that there's no hope. There's always hope, and there's always another way around it. For me, it was getting with people like, Manny Halley, and continuing on my journey to say, yeah, movie is different. This is not what I'm used to doing, but this is still me telling my story.
Right.
Yeah.
I've told my story since '06. I've done the same thing when I met with Manny and his team. I continue to tell my story, and we're shining a light where it needs to be. In the areas of the people who are not getting the justice that they need, in the areas of the victims and the families who are healing behind the cameras. Because once the cameras are gone, the families are still dealing with it every single day.
Once the headlines disappear,
every single
once
day.
it's no longer on the news.
That's right. And my girls, my oldest daughter, she deals with, her own, issues, around what happened. So it continues generationally.
What do you do with the not just the law enforcement trust, but what do you do? Like, what do you do with trust?
Trust, yeah, that's a good one for me. Healing, I had to focus on myself, focus on the healing, the therapy, because there's a lot of mental illness out there, and bringing this on, you have PTSD and depression and anxiety. These are things that people live with, I live with, high functioning. I'm able to work. I'm able to, raise my family, but I still have, a lot of areas that need help. And doing this project allowed me to focus on that area and allowed me to sit down and say, okay, hey, I've done the advocacy for everyone else, but now this is time for me to do the work for myself now. And that's where I'm at now. All this time later, right? Grief is not linear. And I think that's what many people don't understand. Like, there's no specific order of how you grieve or time frame and where it fits in. And that for me, 19 years later, I felt like me dealing with a therapist, could be a little embarrassing. Like, oh man, how can I still be dealing with this so many years later and moving my life forward? I've been able to move forward. I have another daughter. I'm married now. But when you go through trauma will revisit you if you don't deal with it. If you don't heal the proper way, it's going to come back.
And you're always healing.
Always
healing.
Always healing.
And you know what I love about just you sharing your story and sharing your journey is we get a chance to kind of learn from it. And whatever you learn from it, and even if it's just thanks, being thankful for what you have, going home and being able to hug a family member, or what it's so many things that can come out of your story. And I thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you, guys.
And when they hit us up, man, we had our people from iHeart that was like, I was like, definitely, please. I would love to speak with you, and thank you once again for sharing your story, because I do remember the headline. I remember what the feeling was. I was in radio, so I'm telling the story.
That's right.
And so for us to fast forward, if we can, to where we are today, and see that your fight and your journey continues, and some people want things to just disappear.
Yeah.
And when you see the movie and it's like, oh no, this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to continue to tell our stories with our voices and our narratives. And I'm so glad that you're leading the way with great leaders around you as well, and a great support system.
That's right.
And Nicole, I thank you for coming into the neighborhood.
Absolutely, guys. Stay tuned. There's more. There's a memoir coming up.
Oh, come on.
Published by Rocklit through Penguin Random House imprint. So with the book, there's a lot more that is not on scene. So you guys stay tuned. That'll be out next year.
And for Aftershock the movie, the
movie is going to be in theaters November 28th this week.
Wow. Digital December 15th. Go to the theaters.
Yes.
Yeah, I got to watch it in the theater. And I know that there's a red carpet tonight as well, like a premiere.
There is.
Tonight.
Yes,
all right.
There's a premiere.
Nicole, just working with like a Manny and the producers and the directors and stuff like that, obviously it's your story. How difficult was it, or was it specific things that you wanted to make sure was in this movie? Like, what was that process like?
Absolutely. So telling the story is one thing, right? I've done that countless amount of times.
Yeah.
But when you're actually seeing, the actors acting it out, that's a whole different story. It took me a few times. I haven't seen the finished product yet, guys. So we're all going to see it together. But in the every step of the way, Manny's kept me included. Hey, Nicole, how do you feel about this? How about that? And my thing was, we got to keep it authentic, like 100%. I know this is a movie, but if that didn't happen, we can't have it. So, and Manny will tell you guys. And that was part of the reason why it took so long. I met Manny in 2017. Maybe by 2018, we started to communicate more about the project. And then a few years later, they filmed. But it was very important for me to make sure that it was authentic to Sean, to the cause, to everybody involved, everyone who was affected. There's so many people who were affected by that night. So many people.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, all the guys that were there, right? And Sean's family who was there. But then the community, the nation who heard about it. Everyone who stood with us, who marched with us, who fought with us, who attended the rallies. This was important to me, that everyone sees what happened, but they can say, I remember. Like, I remember that. I remember that. And that was authentic. And this is a story about culture. This is us.
Yes.
And it was important for me to keep it authentic. It was hard, difficult, but again, I told the story countless amount of times, and it's a memory that'll never leave me. And I've been able to now talk about it without the tears and without the pain, and that's a part of my growth. But it took a long time and a lot of work to do that. And a lot of victims deal with that every single day.
Nicole, thank you so much for coming into the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Appreciate you
guys.
once
Yes.
again.
You guys are
Aftershock,
amazing.
Nicole P. Bell story. It is in theaters November 28th. Then we go digital December 15th. And once again, thank you for sharing your story with us, love.
Thank you, guys.
God bless you. Y'all
Yes.
continue to hang with us in the neighborhood, Big Boys
Big boy.
Neighborhood.